Hello there, interweb knots, connectors, people of the digital age. Of the world. Wakers, shakers, bakers, all sorts of silly things. Yes, it's another day. Happens to be a Friday. Thor's godmother is Frigga, TGIF. And Frigga is the goddess, the Norse goddess, who was the wife of Odin, and yes, the mother of Thor, and the goddess after whom Friday is named. Friday was Frigga's day. I know I've mentioned that on this channel before. For those of you who don't know, there you go. At least 3 of your weekdays are named after Norse gods. Odin is the name taken for Odin's Day, or Woden's Day, or Wotan's Day, or Wednesday. Yes, Odin's Day. That's Wednesday. Thursday, kind of obvious. Thor's Day. Thor's Day, Thursday. Thursday. And Friday, Frigga's Day. So the mother, the father, and the son. And not in that order. 3 of your 7 days of the week named after Norse gods. Think about that. And then tell me whether or not you think the Norse culture has an impact on your life. Interesting where things come from, right? And yes, you can say also, well, in the Gregorian calendar, we got July named after Julius, the emperor, and August named after Augustus, the emperor. Right? And that's true. Right? You also have March named after Mars, right? The bringer of war. Right? So, just think about that. It is not an accident, right? It's also not an accident that there were 10 months in the calendar, and December was the 10th month, until Julius and August added July and August, right? So, if you think ancient cultures only fade away and never have any relevance in today's culture, well, there are 2 examples of cultures considered long gone, not alive, and yet they impact Anglo-Saxon English-speaking cultures and other cultures, including French-speaking cultures, to this very day. So, literally billions of people who speak the international language of transactions, as well as the international language of diplomacy, are directly impacted by by coughing up, by cultures that are considered dead since thousands of years. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Those same cultures are also considered to be impacted by other cultures around for thousands of years, even before theirs was. So you can see that there is a lot of cross-pollination of culture, and that is a wonderful thing. Over time, as human beings interact and begin to understand and comprehend each other's cultures, slowly but surely, usually we take good values from each other's cultures and integrate them into our own. We don't always do that, unfortunately. Sometimes the bad side of the culture is taken. But mostly, it's good values on the whole. How do you say that? Well, you line them up and calculate them. You can't actually quantify this. Anyway, it is yet another Frigga's day. And I wanted to just talk about what happened yesterday in the markets, specifically on Bitcoin, which did pretty much exactly what I said it would do. After a few days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, of relative tight ranges, but with lots of nice, relative to the time frame, little moves happening on like the 4 hour. Not big moves, but relatively nice moves. Last night, or around late morning, U.S. Eastern Standard Time, yesterday, Bitcoin took a nice little tumble, percent, and it happened within a half hour or so, right before noon Eastern Time. And then what happened? Well, it hit the third standard deviation down on both RMLR bands. So what does that mean? And which RMLR bands? What are you talking about, Yasha? On the 3012 and on the 1110. So what does that mean? Well, once it stopped hitting those bands, what did it do? It mean reverted. And as I was saying, it would probably mean revert to the 3012 by the end of the day / start of day. Well, that's exactly what happened. Now, that was a great example of how mean reversion can happen by continuing to the downside and even walking over sideways. It doesn't have to go in the opposite direction from whence it came. In this case, the mean was coming down. The mean that it was reverting to was coming down. And the price action followed the returns down and to the side as opposed to bouncing up, as we saw happen multiple times in previous days on that time frame. What does that mean? Once again, it means mean reversion can happen in any direction. It does not have to happen only upwards or downwards. It can happen up, down, or sideways, and it can be happening in continuance of the direction that it is going. Well, how is that helpful? Well, it's helpful because you can still know something about the limits to which it can go on any given candle on any given time frame. For example, if you know that the price action has hit a third standard deviation band, up or down, it doesn't matter, and then has, after however many candles it hits it, could be one candle, could be two, could be three, could be 10, could even have a skip of one candle in between, sometimes two, very rarely, but usually just it could skip one candle and hit it again. That happens, fairly routinely. Happened last night, in fact, or yesterday morning, depending on your time zone. If you know that you've hit that third standard deviation band and then have entered a mean reversion after a couple of candles of not hitting it, well then you know that the price action, even though it may continue in that direction, is not likely, in fact highly improbable, to hit that band again before it hits the RMLR itself, even if the RMLR continues down. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you saw the asset hit on a down band, 3 standard deviations down, you follow along that down band, price action is not going to go down there on any given candle before it hits the RMLR that's out in front of it, however many candles you have. it's set to 11, 20, 30, whatever you have it set on. Why is that useful? It's useful for gauging where you should set your entries and exits for. Because it's useful for knowing, okay, if it's going to go against me and continue in this direction or whatever, if it's going to go in the direction that I don't think it's going to go, well, you know what the limits are. That it will not hit that third band again. So as long as you keep your limit down at that level, you're good. Statistically, right, in terms of probabilities. Can there be exceptional cases where it will do that again? Yes, of course there can be. Is it probable? No, it's actually incredibly improbable. Talking less than 0.3% of a chance. How do you know this? Well, look at any data set. Demonstrate to me where on any liquid asset that's trading, whether it's volatile or not, if it has enough good liquidity that it's a real asset. Show me a real asset on whatever time frame you want. Count up how many times it will hit that third standard deviation band after entering mean reversion before it reverts to the RMLR. It's going to be very, 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 very low, I'm telling you. It's just a statistical fact. Why is that? Because of the maths. Because that is what happens when you get outliers. And eventually, they will mean revert. You may think that's a sad story. It doesn't really matter what you think. It's not a narrative. It's just a mathematical observation that you can use to your advantage. People always say they want to be free. They want to do what they want. But then when they're taught how to do it, it scares the bejesus out of them. And they give up trying. They lose hope. They don't want to do it because they're afraid of loss. Okay? And then the moment they try the wrong way. And they do all the wrong things. Right? They don't take profit early and often. They don't limit their loss. And of course, they do get emotionally attached to their trades. And that right there is the killer of dreams. The whole concept of taking your profit, limiting your loss, and don't be emotionally attached to your dreams. Ignoring that is the killer of dreams. Not doing that is the killer of dreams. Now you can ask yourself, well, why do people do that? Why do people kill their own dreams? And the answer to that, my friend, is partly human nature, partly programming, partly fear, and partly doing what the herd does. All these different things that humans trick themselves into believing in order to think they're getting ahead or staying safe, when really they're doing neither of those things. They're just harming their potential, limiting their potential. And instead of rising towards the levels that they want to be at, they are remaining down in the doldrums with the vast majority of people. That isn't to say in any way, shape, or form that they are not as worthy of every ounce of dignity and respect as every other human that is a decent human. Of course they are. It just means that they're limiting their own conditions, whatever you want to call them, because of fear. And that's almost a shame. And I say almost, because it's not quite a shame, really. It's the bell curve of distribution. It's only a shame if you view it that way. It's just natural distribution. If you think about it mathematically. You can use Laplace distribution, whatever. It's just a distribution model. The distribution of treasure is not equal, nor will it ever be. And that actually is a good thing. It may not seem fair, and it is not fair. And it may also seem unjust the way that it is sometimes divided up, and that is also true. Nevertheless, it is a good thing that there is not a completely fair distribution if you want to have any kind of life that is interesting. And on that note, happy trading.